I used to believe I had the perfect life. A stable marriage, a lovely home in a quiet neighborhood, and a dog that completed the picture of a cozy little family. My wife, Emily, and I had been married for 8 years. She was radiant, with that soft warmth in her smile that made me fall in love with her the first time we met. Our life together wasn't extraordinary, but it felt safe, comfortable, predictable. Maybe that was the problem. It started innocently enough. Our dog, Baxter, was getting older and more stubborn. He was a sweet golden retriever with a mind of his own. I had been so busy with work that I hardly noticed how frustrated Emily was getting trying to manage him. One evening, she casually mentioned hiring a dog trainer. "Just for a few weeks," she said while stirring pasta sauce on the stove. "I think Baxter could use some professional help. And honestly, it'll make things easier for both of us." I barely looked up from my laptop. "Sure, whatever you think is best." That's when she first mentioned Luke. "Luke Harris," she said. "He's supposed to be one of the best trainers in the area. Highly recommended." I shrugged, not really paying attention. Looking back now, I should have. The first time I saw Luke was on a Saturday morning. He arrived in a battered pickup truck, stepping out with a confident ease that made him look like he belonged everywhere he went. Tall, lean, tan from the sun, he had that rugged charm, messy brown hair, stubble that seemed perfectly intentional, and an easy smile that made people feel like they'd known him forever. Emily greeted him at the door like she'd been waiting all morning. She wore a sundress I hadn't seen in years, her hair down in loose waves. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. Why would I? It was just the dog trainer. Luke crouched down to greet Baxter, scratching behind his ears with practiced affection. "Hey, buddy. Let's see what we can do with you, huh?" His voice was calm and smooth, the kind of voice people trusted without knowing why. Over the next few weeks, Luke came by twice a week. I'd leave for work in the mornings, while Emily stayed home with him. Sometimes I'd catch glimpses when I returned early, Emily laughing at something he said, Luke standing just a little too close as he adjusted her grip on the leash. It was subtle, barely there. So subtle that I convinced myself it was harmless. But I started noticing things. Emily began dressing differently on training days. A touch of makeup, perfume she hadn't worn in years. Her mood lifted, her energy brighter. When I asked her how the sessions were going, she'd smile a little too easily. "Oh, Luke's great. Baxter listens to him like magic. You should see how patient he is." The way she said his name bothered me, though I couldn't explain why. One Thursday, I came home earlier than usual. I didn't announce myself as I walked in. I just quietly set my keys down and headed toward the backyard. Through the glass doors, I saw them. Emily and Luke were sitting on the patio, not training Baxter at all. They were talking, laughing, leaning in just a bit too close. Luke brushed a loose strand of hair from her face, and she didn't pull away. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was innocent. Maybe I was overthinking. They were just friends. After all, nothing really happened. Right? But then the small things started piling up. Emily stopped waiting for me to come home before eating dinner. She spent more time running errands that conveniently aligned with Luke's off hours. When I suggested we go out for a date night, she said she was too tired. It all felt off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The real turning point came one evening when she got a text while we were watching a movie. She smiled at her phone, that same soft smile she used to reserve for me. I casually asked, "Who's that?" "Oh, just Luke. He's checking in about Baxter's progress." She set her phone down, but her cheeks were flushed in a way I hadn't seen in years. My chest felt heavy. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind replayed the little moments I'd brushed off. The laughter, the closeness, the subtle changes in her. I told myself I was imagining things, that Emily wouldn't do that. Not her. Not us. But deep down, something in me already knew. And I couldn't shake the feeling that the safe, predictable life I thought we had was starting to unravel. The following week felt heavier than usual. I couldn't stop replaying the image of Luke brushing Emily's hair back like it was the most natural thing in the world. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. I tried to bury my suspicions. But they wouldn't stay buried. Emily was different. Colder. Distant in a way that felt intentional. She no longer asked about my day, no longer lingered when we touched. When I kissed her goodnight, she'd turn her face slightly, letting my lips graze her cheek instead. I started noticing how often her phone was in her hand. Always tilted away from me, the screen dimmed as soon as I walked by. At night, she began sleeping with it under her pillow, a habit she'd never had before. One Friday morning, I couldn't take the gnawing in my gut anymore. I pretended to leave for work, but circled back after 10 minutes. I parked a block away and quietly walked home. My heart pounded in my chest, each step feeling like a betrayal of my own trust. Through the front window, I saw Luke's pickup truck in the driveway. He was supposed to come the next day, not today. I froze. My mouth went dry, and my body felt like it didn't belong to me. I crept closer, silent as I approached the back of the house. The curtains weren't fully drawn. Through the small gap, I saw Emily. She wasn't training Baxter. She was sitting at the kitchen table with Luke, laughing in that soft, intimate way she used to laugh with me. His hand rested on hers, fingers intertwined. And then, God help me, he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a fleeting kiss. It was slow, deliberate, familiar. My breath caught, a sharp ache stabbing through my chest. I felt like I'd been punched, the air stolen from my lungs. I wanted to burst through the door, to scream, to demand an explanation. But I couldn't move. I just stood there like a coward, watching the life I thought I had crumble in real time. When they pulled apart, Emily didn't look guilty. She smiled, soft and dreamy, like a woman in love. She whispered something I couldn't hear, and he brushed his hand along her cheek. I stumbled backward, almost tripping over the garden hose. My mind was screaming, but my body felt numb. I walked aimlessly down the street, unable to process what I'd just witnessed. By the time I returned home hours later, Luke was gone. Emily was in the living room, casually scrolling her phone as if nothing had happened. "You're home early," she said without looking up. "Yeah," I managed to reply, my voice flat. She finally glanced at me. There was something unreadable in her eyes, like she knew I suspected but didn't care enough to hide it anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was trapped in someone else's life. I thought about how we got here. Was it me? Had I been too distant, too wrapped up in work? Or had she been searching for something she thought I couldn't give her? The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a private investigator. His name was Martin, an older man with a calm, detached demeanor that made me feel simultaneously ashamed and relieved. "I need to know if my wife is having an affair," I told him bluntly. He didn't flinch. "Do you have a name?" "Yes," I said bitterly. "Luke Harris. He's our dog trainer." Martin nodded like he'd heard it all before. "I'll get you the proof you need." Over the next week, I lived in quiet torment. Every time Emily said she was going to the store or meeting a friend, I wondered if she was really with him. I tried to act normal, but the tension was suffocating. 3 days later, Martin called. "It's confirmed," he said simply. My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I followed her today. She met with Luke at a small motel off the highway. I have photos and video." I felt like I was going to throw up. I wanted to tell him to stop, that I didn't need to see. But part of me needed the truth, no matter how much it would hurt. Email me the evidence, I said quietly. That night, after Emily went to bed, I opened Martin's email. The images were burned into my memory instantly. Emily and Luke in the motel parking lot, his hand on the small of her back. Another of them entering the room. And finally, the one that destroyed what was left of me, Emily, half undressed, smiling up at him like she'd never smiled at me in years. I closed the laptop, my hands trembling. There was no more denying it. My wife was cheating on me with the dog trainer. And now I had to decide what to do with the truth. I stared at the ceiling for hours after seeing those photos, my mind a storm of rage and heartbreak. I could hear Emily's soft, steady breathing beside me. She slept peacefully, like she hadn't just burned our marriage to the ground. I wanted to shake her awake. I wanted to scream. But instead, I lay there quietly, holding the truth inside me like a blade pressed against my own chest. By morning, I'd made up my mind. When Emily came into the kitchen, she greeted me with a faint smile. "Morning. Coffee?" I watched her move, familiar yet suddenly so foreign. My voice was calm when I finally spoke. "Where were you yesterday?" She froze for the slightest second before answering. "I told you. I went to the store, then stopped by Anna's place for a while." A lie. Smooth, effortless. My stomach turned. "Right," I said quietly. "Funny, because Martin, our private investigator, says you were at a motel with Luke." The color drained from her face. She blinked, her mouth opening slightly before she spoke. You hired someone to follow me? Don't you dare turn this on me," I said, my voice low but sharp. "I know. I've seen the pictures." Emily's composure cracked. Her eyes glistened, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or just panic. "Listen," she started, stepping toward me. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Luke he made me feel alive again. We were struggling, and I—" "Struggling?" I laughed bitterly. "You didn't talk to me. You didn't try to fix anything. You went straight to him." She swallowed hard. "It wasn't about him. It was about me feeling invisible. You were always working, always distant. I needed to feel wanted. Then you should have told me," I snapped. "Not crawl into bed with the first man who made you feel special." Her lip trembled. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I still love you." I shook my head. "No. You love how I made your life easy. You love the house, the stability, the safety. But you don't love me, not if this is what you can do to me." She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled back like her touch burned. "Do you even realize what you've done? You've taken 8 years of marriage and set it on fire. You've made a fool out of me for a dog trainer who probably does this with every lonely wife he meets." Emily flinched like I'd struck her. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I felt nothing but a hollow ache. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'll end it. I'll do anything. Please, we can fix this." But her words rang empty. I saw the way she smiled at him in those photos, soft, genuine, like a woman who had already left me long before she physically did. "I don't want to fix it," I said quietly. "I'm done." Her face crumpled, but I kept talking. "You'll pack your things today. You can go stay with whoever you want. Luke, Anna, I don't care. But you won't stay here. You can't just throw me out," she said, her voice shaking. "I can. And I will. You made your choice the moment you kissed him." She stood there, stunned, tears falling silently. Then, without another word, she turned and walked to the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, the soft sound of her sobbing. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the coffee I couldn't bring myself to drink. I felt strangely calm, like all the pain had burned itself out and left only ash. 2 hours later, Emily walked out with a small suitcase. She stopped by the door, her eyes searching mine one last time. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. I didn't answer. I just looked at her, unblinking, until she finally opened the door and left. When the sound of her car faded, the house felt unbearably quiet. For the first time in 8 years, I was truly alone. But strangely, I didn't feel weak. I felt free. The days that followed were hard. I went through the motions, numb at first. Friends and family called when they heard what happened, offering sympathy. Some told me I should have tried to work it out, that maybe it was just a mistake. But I knew better. Infidelity isn't just a mistake. It's a choice, a series of choices. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. A week later, I filed for divorce. Martin gave me all the documented evidence I needed. Emily didn't contest it, maybe out of guilt, maybe because she wanted to be with Luke. I didn't care. I kept the house. I kept Baxter. In the evenings, I'd sit on the porch, watching the sunset with Baxter's head on my lap. It was quiet, but it was peaceful. I learned something through all of this. You can't control the way people love you, or stop loving you. All you can do is decide how much of yourself you're willing to lose to keep someone who doesn't deserve you. I lost enough. And now, I'm starting over.